Hey, welcome back to Sober City. My name is Seth, and I am still an alcoholic, but still grateful for today. And I am super excited for you to meet my good friend Drew, a good buddy of mine. We've been friends since college and a fellow sober brother. Drew's story is possibly going to hit home for anyone who's possibly telling themselves that today I'm not that bad. But deep down, you're a little powerless over this thing. Here's the thing, Drew wasn't that bad. No DUIs, no real rock bottom moment. Just a successful attorney, a dad, a husband, someone who quietly circled the days on a calendar when he didn't drink and found more X's than O's. This episode is for the functional alcoholic, if there's such a thing. The ones who think addiction or alcoholism has to look like chaos in order to count. Drew's proof that dependency isn't about how much you lose, it's about what alcohol really takes from you, even while you think you're winning. Multiple glasses of wine at night, or a few glasses of bourbon with coworkers. They feel like relaxation, but ultimately it's bondage. Drew and I talk about the lies we tell ourselves to keep drinking, the lies we tell others in order to get alcohol, and why honesty at the end of the day might feel like losing control, but it's what sets us free. And how sobriety really is a superpower, even through divorce, becoming a single parent, having to learn to co-parent, whatever life throws at you. So if you're listening and you're thinking, but I'm not like those other people, I think Drew gets you because he was like you. I think one day you might just end up in a room of strangers and saying, I'm an alcoholic, and feeling that incredible weight lifted. It's the sound of a cage unlocking, for sure. My favorite part is Drew's take on forgiveness, which isn't a weakness, but an act of taking power back, focusing on what you can control, cleaning up your side of the street. And sometimes that forgiveness is not reciprocated, and that's okay. We can only do what we can do and control what we can control, and that's where serenity is found. So appreciate you listening. If you need help, have questions, need someone to talk to, my info is in the show notes. If you resonate with Drew's story, I included his email in the show notes as well. Just know you're not alone. Let's get to it. Life is beautiful. Sobriety is worth it. Thank God for today. This is Sober City. Welcome to Sober City.
Thanks, Seth.
Good to see you.
I'd say happy to be here, but you came to me. We're in my office, so.
You're that big of a deal. I had to come to you. Muhammad goes to the mountain does not come to Muhammad.
That's high praise, but we are in my office, so there's an assumption that I'll be billing you for our time, so I appreciate that.
I'm sure it's going to be worth it. Prefer if you wear pants next time. No, you're looking good, buddy. I'm really excited to see you and talk to you. How long have you been sober?
I have been sober since October 30th, 2016.
Geez, so over 8 years.
Yeah, coming up on 9 this year.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah.
That's incredible and inspiring. Drew, what did it look like before you got sober?
Well, I had a complicated relationship with alcohol for sure that looked different ways in different phases. Where we first met, Seth, was at the Black Hills State University. had a little bit too much fun there my first couple of years. Got in a little bit of trouble with the law, a little bit of trouble with the university. Fortunately, I was allowed to stay and it didn't impact my education. I'm grateful for that. Stopped drinking for quite a while. And then later on, alcohol became more of a medication, drinking every day, not drinking a ton, but probably like 2 to 4 drinks pretty much every day of the week, in the evening after work, being able to wind down, deal with stress, get to sleep, kind of a daily necessity, not drinking to excess very much, but a required daily need.
Sure. Yeah, I can understand that. So it wasn't, you weren't a binge drinker, a blackout drinker. It was kind of a 2 to 3 drinks a night deal, which it's definitely a dependency, would you say?
Yeah, I think that in when we talked about this before, Seth, that, the test for me, did I have a problem with alcohol? I tried to stop and I couldn't. And that even though, I think some people's perception of alcoholism is that it's pretty dramatic. It involves DUIs. It involves, looking down the barrel of prison time. Your life is completely fallen apart, but it doesn't always look that way. And for me, I fortunately didn't have to hit an absolute rock bottom to be able to stop. But dependency for sure. I shared this with you before, Seth, that at my office, I kept a calendar and I was trying to stop, or I was trying to reduce, maybe not stop entirely, but I would circle days that I successfully went without drinking and then put X's on days that I gave in and did drink. And there's a lot more X's than circles on that calendar. And I keep that as kind of a reminder of that season of life of the daily desire not to drink, but I seem to not be able to make it through the day in completing that task.
Right. And you noticed pretty early on or at some point that, man, this thing's got a hold on me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that what really led me to really wanting to stop is realizing that I was beholden to something else, that I really wasn't free, that this had a grip on me. And it, that dependency started to affect my life. I would have to scheme or arrange to make sure that I was going to be able to have those drinks, making sure that they'd be in the house, not being entirely honest with people as to my motives for needing to stop at the store. It was a lot more than just the couple hours in the evening that I was drinking. It was really an overall focus as to making sure that it was going to happen.
Right. Yeah, that obsession. I think we were kind of joking about it's 9:30 at night and you're like, I gotta go to Safeway real quick, grab a cilantro.
Yeah, like I got this really urgent thing that some spices that I don't know anything about need to be in this cupboard.
Oh shoot, we're at a paprika.
And paprika. You know what? I might grab a bottle of wine while I'm there since we're out, but the spices is the thing.
Yeah. I'm not going for the wine. The paprika, that's important right now. It's insanity, man, and it's like you said too, beholden to something that, it's inconvenient, really, to have to be at night realizing I'm not going to be able to sleep unless I get something in me to drink. So you kind of mentioned that you hadn't really, obviously been incarcerated as a result of this or DUI. What was the catalyst that prompted you to say, I got to stop? I know you were tracking it on the calendar and realizing there's more X's than O's. What was it that brought you to a place where you were ready to give it up?
I think, it's a long time of denial, a long time of not being honest with myself and anyone else as to it was a problem. I wanted to stop so bad, but you get in this place of, if I admit that I've got a problem to somebody else, now I have to actually deal with it. So I didn't talk about the internal struggle that was going on because I don't want to have to deal with it. Honestly, I wanted to fix it myself. But I think so. I'm a lawyer, and one thing I see, I don't know, fairly commonly in a profession like mine is that trying to dress up drinking. I have no culture, no taste. So it was all a facade for me for sure. But, good wine. But, hey, I'm really into bourbon. I know nothing about bourbon, but you kind of dress it up and then it looks like this culturally acceptable pursuit and hobby that, all of a sudden isn't a problem. It's a good thing. And I kind of started to go down that road. And I remember having like a couple too many like bourbon drinks or something. And then the next morning just being like, this is insane. Like I feel horrible. This has nothing to do with the taste for me. And just wandering into a group meeting and kind of saying out loud for the first time that, hey, I'm an alcoholic, I have a problem. And as soon as those words came out of my mouth, it was like a ton of weight came off of my shoulders. It was like, man, now I can actually deal with this. And it felt like it lost all of its power once it was out in the open. In the dark, it had this grip on me, but once it was exposed, it was like I could breathe again.
Yeah, 100%. That's where it festers. And like you said too, I wanted to deal with this myself. Didn't need to make it public. I can just stop. I'm going to track my days on this calendar, right? And I'm going to keep a tally of how often I drink, and you realize, man, I'm not doing a good job. But when you go out and put it out there, I have a problem, I'm an alcoholic. Yeah, it takes a lot of that power. And the honesty, right? Too, I think you're being honest.
Yeah, being honest with other people and being honest with myself. And I think, like you say, thinking that I could change it myself and stop alone, that was an exaggeration of my perception of how much strength I actually have. I'm really not that strong. I have to lean on other people a lot. I have to lean on close friends and people that care about me to know what's going on in my life and to hold me to the standard that I've set for myself. Because when getting alone and isolating and trying to solve a problem that big alone, I don't actually possess that much strength. And I don't think that's a bad thing to admit. I think there's strength in admitting that weakness and vulnerability.
There is. I think the strongest thing you can do is ask for help. Get help. I think the other thing that you mentioned that I appreciate is when you talk about the dishonesty, probably the biggest lie we tell ourselves is that, well, we're not lying to ourselves. We know we have a problem, but what we put out in the world, that's what makes us feel like frauds a majority of the time. We know we have a problem. It's a matter of convincing everybody else. So when you let go of that lie, that's a huge burden off your back. I think that's the start. I know a couple people right now that are willing to say they have a problem, right? But doing something about it. And I just tell them, just you doing this, just you calling is huge. That's a start for sure.
So it was October 30th, 2016, right around Halloween.
Yeah, day before Halloween, yeah.
Yeah, so I wanted to go as a sober guy for Halloween, so I had to, whatever that costume looks like.
Right. And you were at that point, 2016, were you married, had kids? What was your situation like?
Yeah, I was married at the time. And at the time I would have only had 2 kids. Now I have 4. 2 young kids at that time. So a lot going on. I know this, Seth. Anybody that has young kids knows it's a hard season of life in a lot of ways. A lot of noise, a lot of chaos, a lot of being asked of you, and then having a demanding career where a lot is being asked of you there as well. Creates a lot of pressure and a lot of stress. And the way that I used alcohol was medication or a way to cope with things that I didn't know how to deal with. And it became an easy way to just shut my mind off. What I really wanted when I got home from work, when I was all stressed out and the house was loud with young kids, I was so anxious and uptight. I wanted to shift into this version of me that is like, hey, everything's going to be all right, man. Like it's okay. I can roll with the punches. And the thing is, the reason why so many people use alcohol is it works great in the short term for switching into that mode of like, it's all good, man. Like two drinks in, that's how I am. And I craved that kind of laid back, stress free mindset so bad.
Yeah, what's remarkable to me is I've known you for a while, and you have always kind of personified that personality. You've always seemed chill to me from the outside. You've always seemed laid back, uh, but internally, you were uncomfortable and right wound
Yeah.
up. You didn't feel how you were portraying.
Well, maybe when you met me, Seth, I had hair down to my shoulders, so that laid back thing that was being projected,
Right.
the hemp necklace, maybe it looked like I was more chill than what was going on the inside.
No, yeah. Well, you definitely looked the part. Man, yeah, you were always, man, yeah, you were always funny and laid back. And it's strange to hear you say, like, I needed alcohol to maybe feel that way. But yeah, I get it. Yeah, when you get home, you really want to be present and relaxed, not on edge, right? And it's tough to do without a little help in the
Yeah.
beginning.
Yeah, and I think the way that I look at it now is really understanding why I was drinking to a degree is really important, rather than just stopping and having recovery be, I'm just not going to drink anymore. Because I don't know that for me that would have ever been sustainable. So really unpacking why it was happening was important, because what I've tried to do is try to replace it with something else, other coping mechanisms that are not as destructive and more helpful. Whether that's reading, exercising, whatever it is. When I feel like I need to switch up my mindset, finding non-destructive ways to do it has been huge for me. Because just saying no to drinking and having that be the complete answer that's pretty rough.
That is rough. Yeah. The idea of just stop drinking. That's pretty overwhelming. When you decided to get sober on October 30th, 2016, your spouse at the time, was she kind of nudging you, or was there any like push to say, hey, Drew, do you have to have 2 glasses of wine every night? Was there any of those conversations?
Yeah, and in that relationship, it created a lot of tension for a long time. Probably had gotten to the point where it wasn't even said out loud anymore. It was just a known stressor and clear problem that had kind of gone under the surface a little bit, as just to something that was creating a lot of relational distance. And so, yeah, it was not a good thing for me. It wasn't a good thing for me, for my kids, for that relationship. It was destructive all around. It had a lot of power because it was being kept in the dark, and it was hurting me in pretty much every area of my life.
So yeah, there was still some of that component. So yeah, you were creating a kind of tense environment at home when you'd come home with a bottle of wine or whatever it was, right? After going to pick up dill.
Yeah. Yeah. It was kind of become this unspoken, like, not happy about it kind of thing. And also then what that leads to, at least for me, was hiding it, not telling the truth about it, finding ways, because that's going to create tension or an argument or whatever. So it seems like the easier way to get around that then is to try to have drinking happening where hopefully people aren't aware of it. I think that I probably thought I was more cunning than I actually was, but definitely the lying and the trying to hide it became a big part of my relationship with alcohol as well.
That's not acceptable. You get that. So your solution is not to address what's not acceptable, but rather, how can I conform this to be more acceptable? Which is, I only had 2 beers at the restaurant with you, but in reality, at home, there's something hidden, right? Like
Yeah.
there's, 2's not enough for me. I got to make sure that I get my appropriate dosage, but also I don't want to make anyone uncomfortable.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, when you say it like that, it's like, obviously the clear solution is to deal with the drinking head on. But, when you get in a place where that feels like something that you can't do, logically, so I need to drink. And I don't want to have a ton of tension in relationships and at home. So the natural solution to this problem is to keep drinking, but have it not be as visible. The insanity of saying that out loud, but that is the thought process that me and I think a lot of people go through is I can't stop drinking. So I need to keep drinking, but how do I do it and not have a bunch of drama about it?
Right. Yeah. How do I do this without having to hear my wife nag about it
Yeah.
or whatever it is? Yeah, it's, it'd be nice to just stop. And I think that's the attitude sometimes is, man, if you just stop drinking, life would be a lot easier for everybody. And what ends up happening is if they're not ready, they'll say that maybe they'll quit, but the second they can or the second they can hide it, they will, right? Like,
Yeah.
I just think there's, like, I think you said that, and like it just creates kind of a environment to be dishonest.
I think because of that, I don't know if you feel this way, Seth, but I feel like I have quite a bit of empathy for anybody that's going through an addiction of any kind. You know, maybe someone who hasn't been through that will make a passing comment about another person saying like, you know, why are they doing this? Why are they doing this to their family? You know, they're screwing up their job. They're screwing up their whole life just because they can't stop using or stop drinking or whatever it is. And, you know, not to make any excuses for somebody that's in a kind of a tailspin like that, but like, I get it. Like, I bet if you hooked them up to a lie detector test and said, do you think you should stop drinking or stop using drugs? They would say yes. Like, I know. If it were as easy as saying, I will just quit, that's the problem and I'm going to do it, they would have done it by now in a lot of situations. So yeah, anybody that's caught in that trap, you know, that's in bondage to this substance and can't figure out how to break free of it. I have a ton of empathy for that. And I love talking to people about it and just saying I've been there. I don't know if my experience is helpful, but I do understand.
Right. That's the beauty of it, is to be able to talk about your experience and how you were able to do it. Right. It's kind of hopeless in the beginning. You feel hopeless. Obviously, it feels good to start being honest for once.
Yeah.
But then you wake up the next day and go to work, or then you come home and you still got kids and a wife and responsibilities.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's tricky. You know, what did the early sobriety kind of look like or feel like for you?
It was scary. It was relearning, you know, what is the evening going to look like for me, young kids at home. There's some reasons why having a really loud home for me was especially difficult. And learning to deal with work stress in maybe a little bit more healthy way. It was very scary because alcohol was this thing that I knew worked. You know, it was causing all kinds of other chaos, but I knew that I could switch into that laid back mode with a couple glasses of red wine, and without it, I had no clear solution. So it was terrifying. I had to really, really work on myself. Start to really drill down into why I was drinking, maybe for the first time. And I shared this with you, Seth. I think, and getting sober, you know, everything didn't just work out for me or become necessarily easier from then on. I've gone through some of the harder things in my life since I stopped using alcohol, but I had to actually deal with things head on. And, you know, rather than numbing it and not feeling it. And so some of the harder years of my life have been since I've been sober, and I had to deal with things without a clear solution.
A clear solution and an easy solution, right? That's it. I think that's the nice thing about alcohol or any substance. It's immediate. I know what's going to happen when I drink it. Guaranteed.
Yeah.
Outside of that, how do I navigate those difficulties on my own and feel them, right? That's
Right.
the hard thing. We feel things pretty hard, I think. And so, yeah, you went through, like you said, some of the hardest periods of your life sober.
Right.
And you at no point ever thought, you know what, I might just say screw it.
I had that thought many times. And you know, I've been through some really hard things these last few years, and I'm, you know, I went through some really hard days, and things got pretty dark, and I'm proud that I maintained my sobriety through that. There's some days, I mean, anybody who's been through some really dark times in their life, I think, may feel that the goal for today is to stay alive and to stay sober. And basically that's it. If I can check those two boxes, it's mission accomplished for the day. And staying sober through some really hard personal life things it's brutal. It's absolutely brutal.
Right. Yeah. Just you got to address it and feel it. You can't escape. That's the other thing alcohol provides is an escape. You can run away real quick, not be present, but to be there and address it and confront it is tough. I think one thing that comes with this is like fear. I don't know if it's the same for you, but I was always very fearful. But it's just control. I think we just like to have control. That's the thing that alcohol and drugs provides is control to a degree.
Right.
I can control the thing that matters the most to me, and that's my comfort. And
right.
So I can feel immediately comfortable right now. That's, if nothing else, that's kind of reassuring. But at the end of the day, you're compromising a lot of other things, and in reality, you're just making things worse.
Right.
So yeah, but I think the fear, uncertainty, dealing with life on life's terms, and the idea of just as long as I don't drink, I know I can't make it worse.
Right.
That's about all I can do. And like you said, stay alive, be present. So you got through all that, and what were you able to do, or what kind of helped you navigate those trials and tribulations?
I think, to me, and we talked about this, recovery isn't, as silly as it may sound, recovery isn't really have that much to do with alcohol. Even obviously the focus isn't entirely on alcohol and not drinking. But when I went through, hard seasons in my life, even when I was doing that sober, I slipped back into a pattern of not being honest with myself, not being honest with other people, and the same kind of mindset that I used when I was active in my addiction kind of came back to the surface of not making decisions that were consistent with my values, and not being honest with myself and other people as to what I was doing and how I was acting. And really, I would say to come out of that, I really had to face those head on, just like I did with alcohol, and work through a recovery process of my favorite language about recovery is take a searching and fearless moral inventory of yourself. And those two words, searching and fearless, is like exposing all of you, all of the vulnerable things, all of the bad decisions you've made, and just putting it out in the open and saying, this is what it is. And these are decisions I've made. These are roads I've gone down that I probably shouldn't have. And I'm going to deal with them head on. I'm not going to try to sidestep around responsibility and consequences for it. I'm just going to accept it. And I'm going to work on being the man that I want to be, apologizing to people when I need to, and really living as frequently as I can, consistent with the values that I feel are important, being able to look at myself in the mirror.
Right. I think the idea that the worst thing that can happen is I drink or use, right?
Right.
I think some of the most hurtful things I've done sober. I think that's just, like you said, an inventory, fearless and honest. Look at yourself, because if we start compromising what we know to be right, and we know what's right and wrong, but we start to fudge a little bit, it doesn't take much for us to really do some damage. And then the trick, just like you said, when you got sober, is you look at it and address it and be honest about it, and don't deflect. Like, oh, the reason I have a drinking problem is because of this person.
Right.
Same thing, same principle applies when you screw up. Man, I screwed up and I own it. Yeah, even if somebody else had played a role or whatever, it's not my responsibility to take their inventory, right?
Right.
I'm doing my own, and that's all I can do. I clean up my side of the street.
Yeah, and I think that, like you said, Seth, it comes down to what, and it's strangely comforting to me, when you only focus on what you can control and then let the rest go. It's actually really calming, because what we can control is so limited. I mean, I really believe that all that I can control is trying to, and not expecting perfection out of myself, but trying to be a person that tells the truth, that has integrity, that is reliable. And then as situations come about, I try to do the next right thing. When I'm given a situation and I have to determine there's two different roads to go down, and I try to pick the one that seems to be the most right to me, that's really all I can control. And that's so little in the grand scheme of all the other people around me, all the variables that are out there affecting my life. So it's kind of like you can just let all that go and just be like, I can't control basically anything. So I'm just going to do my best.
That's it. Yeah. It is crazy when you think back to before you got sober, how much you tried to control, how much we tried to manipulate or voice our opinions in the hopes that it's going to get people to do what we want them to do. That definitely is a driving force to the insanity, because it's like, if they would just do this thing, I'd be a lot happier. And then they do that thing, maybe, and then you realize you're not happier. So then you're constantly changing the script, and we're terrible directors, right? I think it's the example I heard is we were trying to direct a play, and we have no business doing that because we can barely direct ourselves.
Right.
Can't even manage our own lives, and we're trying to tell other people what they need to be doing. Super opinionated and cynical and judgmental and critical.
Yeah, and I think it actually has an adverse effect. It works the opposite direction. I feel in my life, when I think of the more I've tried to control a situation, whether it be another person or something else that just seemed like I wanted to have this like white knuckle grip on making sure things went a certain way, that attitude towards it or towards that person would usually make it go worse than if I just took a step back, focused on myself, and just kind of let the chips fall as they may. And I think, to go back on something else you said, Seth, the recovery process, whether it's steps based or whatever that looks like to go through recovery, is typically really focused on ourselves, on being honest with ourselves, like we talked about, making an inventory of our actions, of things that are going on in our life, asking for forgiveness from other people, trying to make amends. It's really not like trying to fix other people or staying away from toxic people or trying to make other people do a certain thing. It's like, and I think that that's intentional, because for me, when I was in my addiction, I had so many excuses, other people's behavior, whatever. I was a victim of my circumstances. And as long as I was a victim, basically any action that I took was excusable. Everything that I did, I could trace back mentally to something else that somebody did that hurt me, and therefore my actions are excused. But like I told you on the phone, Seth, like that had to stop, because what I had to admit was every time I pulled into the liquor store to buy a bottle of wine, I was the one moving that steering wheel. I got out of my car, I bought it, and I paid for it. That was an action I took. And that was all me. Nobody else did that.
Yeah, that victim mentality is a handy tool to make us feel like, well, I guess I'm just screwed. Yeah, nothing I can do about it. That victim mentality is pretty deadly, and has got to stop as soon as possible. I think I heard somebody say, when you start saying "poor me, poor me, poor me," eventually it's "pour me another one."
That sounds like 8 country songs.
Yeah,
right there.
Yeah, "pour me," and all these terrible things have happened. That victim mentality, and that's exhausting. And I'm sure anybody that's living with an alcoholic or addict can probably relate that. Gosh, stop.
Right.
It's hard to. Yeah, I get it. I've heard the same country song. You're singing the same song over and over again, and it's getting hard to feel sorry for you. I know that's what you want, but it's hard to listen to. But that's all we got, because if we're not a victim, then we're responsible.
Yeah, that's terrifying.
That's a tough one.
I'm responsible for my own choices.
Yeah. And you got kids, right?
Yeah.
We teach them that you need to be responsible and disciplined. But then here we are. No, it's actually my wife's fault, or whatever it is. This wouldn't have happened. I wouldn't be this way.
Yeah, I think that kind of self-awareness and trying to keep that going of when consequences come, and it's reasonable to attach the consequence to some decision that you've made, and just dealing with that consequence head on, not trying to sidestep it. It's not pleasant. And yeah, it's a lot easier to drink and just entirely forget about it or try to blame somebody else. But owning your own stuff is not fun. I think that's why it's rarely done.
Absolutely. No, it is difficult. It's one thing that sometimes I struggle with. Like, I'm responsible for my actions and words. And when I'm wrong, I need to address that. I can't be like, it's not a big deal. That's when we start to slip. One thing I struggle with, though, is when I make a mistake or talk at it, whatever it is, whenever I feel like, I shouldn't have done it, I need to address that. I do it without the expectation of them apologizing also. It's sometimes it's tricky to say, hey, I was wrong to talk to you like that, and I shouldn't have said what I said. You didn't deserve that, right? And they say, well, thank you. I appreciate you saying that. Sometimes I want to be like, but also,
do you have something to say now?
Yeah.
Would you like to speak?
Anything else? That's it. Okay. Yeah.
And that's exactly what I mean is the recovery process is owning your own stuff and making amends where you can. And there's no qualifier where like, we'll only apologize to someone if they'll also admit that they had something to do with it too. And that's brutal.
Yeah.
To apologize to someone and humble yourself before someone.
Yeah.
And you have a ton of pain too, and you have to forgive them without getting an apology.
That's right. Because
that's not easy.
No, that's not. And the reason you do that, though, is because if they never apologize, are you going to carry that for the rest of your life? You just got to move on. What do you got to do?
That gives that person a ton of power. Basically, like, I'm going to be upset about this, but you basically have the power. If you apologize, then this burden is basically going to be taken off me. So now it's dependent on whether or not that person is willing to humble themselves and ask for forgiveness. Or you can just choose the route of saying, regardless of whether you think you did anything wrong or want to apologize to me, I'm going to forgive you. That doesn't mean I'm going to give you complete access to my life. Maybe there'll be boundaries there, but I'm going to forgive you because I don't want to carry this around with me anymore. It's exhausting.
That's right. It's irresponsible or unwise to give someone else the keys to your cage.
Yeah.
Man, if you can take the keys, unlock it, do it yourself. You don't need to give someone else that kind of power and authority. And sometimes the people we're given power and authority to are not the best people to give power and authority to, which is crazy. Somebody that has a negative influence on me, I think about them a lot. And it's not, I try to realize that. Start my day off, I can either pray or I can think about this person who is insulting or whatever it is. It's interesting, but if you can figure that out and recognize it and just say, you know what, I'm moving on. And like you said too, you can forgive them, but you can also make changes to not put yourself in a position to be hurt again.
Right.
You don't have to say, I forgive you and put yourself back into the spot where they're going to do it again and again. That's just the driving the insanity also. And sometimes too, I feel like apologizing admits that I'm wrong. That's something else I need to get over. The need to be right, the need to have the upper hand or not seen as inferior. I don't know what it was, but I don't know if you ever felt like that.
Yeah. And I think, so you talked to a therapist on the last episode. I have a really good therapist. She's really good. And what she helps me do is, she doesn't tell me what to do, which I think is important because that's not really her job. But, she says, Drew, I can see that you have a lot of anxiety when you're living inconsistent with your values. So I think what you need to do is identify what your values are, whether that's informed by your faith or other concepts of what a good man is and how he should behave. And then, try to live consistent with that, because when there's that separation between what I know is right and what I'm actually doing, I'm in a chaotic, horrible mindset full of anxiety. And so I think forgiveness, when you look at forgiveness through that lens, it's basically saying, hey, I didn't live up to the standard that basically I've set for myself of what I think a man with humility and integrity does. And I'm going to say that to you. And it affected you. And I acted that way. I'm not perfect. that thing I did was wrong. That doesn't mean I'm overall a bad person, but I'm basically acknowledging I didn't live up to this standard, and I'm sorry for that.
And that's the key part of being honest, is recognizing where you were wrong and just focusing on what you did wrong and addressing that.
I just, since this is only audio, I feel like I need to acknowledge that I have a black eye right now. And I just think this fits in great to this idea of being honest, because I'm like, hey, Seth, I got a black eye. Would you believe that I got in a trampoline accident with a 9-year-old? And you're like, wow, yeah.
Yeah.
That's super believable, Drew.
Yeah, but you don't look like you have 8 years of sobriety right now.
Yeah,
right. Yeah, it is funny though. But it's kind of cool though, because obviously that wasn't my first thought. I didn't think you drank or whatever. You know?
Yeah.
I knew it was something else. But gosh, old Drew or old Seth, right? Maybe he fell, right? It's nice to now know, like, hey, I don't have anything to hide.
Right.
And really, most people in your life would probably be like, oh yeah, he did hit his eye on a kid's head.
Right.
That's nice too. When you get to that point, I know there were times before where I would lie to my wife, and I knew she didn't buy it, but she just was like, okay. Right. Like,
right. Yeah.
I'm done.
I'd rather just agree with you than have this conversation for another time.
Because I'm like, yeah, I know if I keep asking, you'll just, keep lying. So,
yeah. And now, also, there's people that have known me through a lot of different phases of life where I was doing a lot of different things, not always making great choices. And so they may perceive me a certain way. I mean, I guess I'm tying this to the black guy. I don't know that it's really relevant to that, but they may think of me in a certain way. They may not see me as this way that I see myself, and kind of letting that go too, because I can't control that. Man, once you try to start controlling people's perceptions of you, that's exhausting.
And we did that for many years, right? That's what we did a lot of. I don't want these people knowing I have a drinking problem. At the very least, that was the biggest lie. But then it was everything else. How am I perceived? And I don't know, did you ever struggle with imposter syndrome? Being an attorney, being, successful, like, did you ever feel like, man, people are going to figure out I shouldn't be an attorney? Or it's kind of what I struggled with, was I have no business owning a real estate company.
Yeah.
Which is not true. It's just, I've always felt like, and a lot of it boiled down to, because I knew I was living a lie, but to a degree.
I don't know that I would call it imposter syndrome, but I think that, especially when I was active in my addiction, I had a lot of, because I had so much of my life that was hidden and causing so much anxiety, that I had a ton of insecurity, and probably rather than directly related to my job, was just, the fear of being found out, that how pretty miserable I was, and trying to keep up a facade of something else. For me though, and I think this is somewhat common in functioning alcoholics, which is probably what I would call myself for a long time, work is sometimes the last thing to go. Or maybe the last area of your life where things really start to fall apart, because I don't know why that is, but things at home may have completely fallen apart. Other relationships are completely soured, but between 8 and 5, you're somehow able to get things done and maintain an image of professionalism.
Right. And I think it is because that's our identity a little bit. I think I'm not a good husband or dad, but I'm a good realtor. So I'm going to make sure I at least have this. But if you're a functional alcoholic, you just need one thing that you can show, hey, this is manageable. I'm managing this. When I first got sober, I said to a buddy, I'm more of a functional alcoholic. I'm a functional alcoholic. And he said, oh, you're so functional that you're living with your mom right now? You're living at your mom's? And that was the reality, where it's like, I can't say that anymore. You know what I mean? I think I lost my, and that was the one thing that I kind of used to be like, I'm not like you guys. I'm more functional. And it's a lie, man. I'm exactly like them. And if I would have kept going, it would have been a DUI or anything. You know what I mean? I'm not special. There's no degree of this thing. It's just, we all get there at some point. It's progressive. It's like being pregnant. At some point, people are going to know you're pregnant.
Mm.
You can get by for a while. It's crazy, man. It's brutal.
Yeah. And that, when I say functional, just maybe the perception or being able to keep doing your job and not getting fired. And I think that perception that, people who have a problem, they're like homeless, this is what alcoholism is. It's not me. I mean, I'm like a dressed up version of a problem. I've thought about this a lot, Seth. So like that concept of, I drink good wine, I'm into good bourbon, but it's all this big facade. I know deep down I've got a problem. Actually, the guy that's like scrounging together change to get a couple 40s at the gas station is more honest than me, because he's like acknowledging I'm not in this for the taste, and I'm spending 10 times the money. So out of those two people, am I actually the more functional one? Because I'm the one that's spending a ton of money to get the same feeling. So
Truly, no joke, right? Yeah, it's the lies we tell ourselves to kind of soften, and it's just ego. No, I'm functional.
Yeah,
I'm more of a functional alcoholic. It's like, no, you're either an alcoholic or you're not.
Right.
I wouldn't call what you're doing functional, like you said, right? Man, I would love to just spend $5 on Kharkov. But no, I gotta maintain this perception that I'm classy.
Yeah, I'm so functional. I spent $80 on a bottle of bourbon that I don't know anything about, and so that's good, right?
And I don't even like bourbon.
I don't like it at all.
I just like how it makes me feel. I know. It's funny. I had a buddy at a poker night buy me an A beer, and gosh, I a couple swigs of that, and I was like, man, beer's gross.
Yeah,
I'd much rather a Fanta.
Yeah.
And my big thing was like, oh, I like IPAs, right? Mm-hmm. No, I don't. I just like that you generally with IPAs, there's a higher alcohol content. I like bourbon stouts, mainly because they're 12%. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that was the thing. When I'd go to a brewery or anywhere, I wouldn't even look at the name of the beer. I would just go to the ABV section and just pick the highest number.
Why is there any more information?
Yeah,
I don't understand.
Just tell me the ABV, and then it's like, oh, you know what? That dog poop stout looks pretty good. I might try that. Let me try this. Yeah, it's so annoying.
Yeah.
No, I just like these stouts. Yeah, it's pathetic. But man, so then and here you are today. So you are a partner in a law firm.
Yeah.
And we're sitting in your office. It's beautiful. Clear view of Crow Peak. You got windows. You even got a balcony off your office.
Yeah.
You make sobriety look pretty
This is what it looks like, Seth.
Right.
This is
that's pretty sweet. So you're engaged now.
Yeah.
But you had ultimately had divorced.
Yeah.
But you're engaged now.
Yeah, I've been through a lot of things. I've been through a marriage that didn't work. A lot of that was, it takes two in every relationship to either make it work or not make it work, probably. But I definitely did my part to make sure it didn't work, for sure. I've got 4 young kids. I'm engaged now. I really like what you talk about in your kind of intro to this podcast, Seth, when you talk about thank God for today. I really am grateful for where I am. There, despite my desire to control every little thing, things could have taken a very different turn for me. There was times, in college and then later on too, where I could have easily gotten multiple DUIs. I didn't, use some drugs in college, didn't get caught with that. That could have very much affected the trajectory of my life. I was able to get into law school, become a lawyer. I mean, now I'm engaged. I'm crazy about her. I've got 4 wonderful kids. My life isn't perfect, but it's very good. And it's not all a result of me doing everything right. There's things that have gone my way that I didn't deserve and I couldn't control. And I am doing my best when I have an attitude of gratefulness every day, rather than looking at anything that's wrong, because I'm super blessed, super grateful.
Amen. Yeah. Thank God for today. Be where your feet are. I think we get in the habit of looking at yesterday, what I could have done. I looked like an idiot yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I made a mistake yesterday. It can have effect on today or tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to suck. Something's going to happen tomorrow. All that happens then is you just waste today, and then you're not of service. So one thing that I was kind of curious about is you got sober in 2016. I think we mentioned earlier in the interview, you ultimately ended up getting divorced, but you got divorced kind of later on in sobriety, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that ties into, I don't know that what I would have thought when I was actually getting sober, but just because you're not drinking alcohol anymore doesn't mean that life is suddenly going to become easy. And in some ways that it may actually become, I don't want to paint it like life is going to get harder, but life is going to continue to be full of really hard things, and with or without alcohol, and at least sober, you're actually dealing with them. But I definitely went through some of the harder things in my personal life post sobriety. I had a lot of trouble dealing with having young kids in the house, which I said is, I think, a pretty challenging phase of life for pretty much anybody, if they're being honest. The noise, the sleep deprivation, the changing dynamics of a relationship with now having all this chaos. Didn't deal with it in a healthy way, and kind of going from there, not making good choices, finding other ways to avoid. What I think about the why it ultimately all comes down to me, Seth, is being honest with myself, is because I've tried to mask other things as solutions, and I wasn't being honest with myself. Being a lawyer, you can be at the office 7 days a week, and you can play it off as like, man, I'm such a hard worker. Work ethic is a virtue. So like, wow, Drew's at the office every single day. It's like, yeah, but is he actually just like hiding from his family because he doesn't know how to deal with it?
Yeah.
And so that kind of avoidance, it's not just alcohol. I can lie to myself in a lot of ways. I'm pretty cunning in that way.
Absolutely. Yeah. Same with me being in real estate. It'd be very easy. And I was on it dishonest sometimes, where I was like, oh, I got to go meet a client. And sometimes I just sit in my office and watch TikToks for 3 hours. That's part of the being honest part. If I'm looking at my life right now, how am I being productive? No, but that's okay. Nobody knows I'm not being productive. That's not how we should approach things. I know, and I have to live with myself. But the second we start keeping secrets and start doing things in the dark, we just have to address it right away. Man, I agree with you. You don't have to drink to do some damage. And we'll find other ways to escape, like you said. Yeah. And generally, they're not healthy ways. We have to really look at every component of our life and say, am I utilizing this for my benefit or for my harm or the harm of others? And so, yeah, you ultimately, I got divorced, and then, but like I had mentioned, are now engaged. And I think the reason I wanted to bring that up was because sometimes life doesn't work out the way you want it to, right? You don't get a pass at life because we don't handle things well. I remember the guy that helped me get sober would say, okay, Seth, what happens if Brittany divorced you? What happens if she wakes up tomorrow and wants a divorce? And I used to say for a while, months, I'll kill myself. I'm done. I can't live without her. You know what I mean? Like, no, what's the point? She's the only thing I got. That's all I got. That's the only thing I need, right? Man, after some sobriety and working some principles and learning how to live life, eventually I said, you know what? I will be the best ex-husband I can be. And I meant it. I accepted, you know what? If she wants out, she can, and I will be the best ex-husband. And at the end of the day, I'll still be a dad, right?
Yeah.
You don't divorce your children. And so, yeah, the thought that at some point I was thinking the solution would be, okay, no point to life, the expense of traumatizing my children. But no, that's it. That's how we should deal with it, is say, okay, this happened, and what can I do about it?
I think that that's part of being honest, and also when you're asking for forgiveness, I think a big part of recovery and sobriety is forgiving yourself, and like you talk about, thank God for today. I lived inconsistent with my values, for extended periods of time, and shame does nothing positive for me. Calling it out for what it is, I did these things that I'm not proud of, that I disagree with. That doesn't mean I'm rotten to the core, but those things were wrong, and I'm not going to sidestep it. But I forgive myself for that. I'm not going to let the shame dictate my life. And yeah, a relationship breaks down. I think a lot of people get trapped in, again, blaming or the other person's psycho, it's all their fault, and not a lot of self-examination. And yeah, being the best ex-husband, best co-parent that I can that's what a good man does. That's still the standard, is to treat people with respect. And then moving into a new relationship, all the complexities, she has kids and all these things, that there's still a ton of challenges and difficult things I'm going to move forward with in my life. I'm going to do it sober. I'm committed to that. But I'm still going to have to work my way through it. And so things didn't just suddenly become easy the last time I took a drink of alcohol, for sure, but it is much better.
That's it. And that's kind of why I wanted to bring it up, because you just can't expect, life to get easy. Life's hard. But when you get to the point where you don't need to drink over it, life is actually manageable, and people are pretty cool. The other thing too you said that I really appreciated was the not caring about the opinion of others. We're very self-conscious, and the idea that I need to appear a certain way or do a certain, you got to stop. Somebody once said to me that you could be the sweetest peach in the world, and some people just don't like peaches.
Yeah.
And for some reason, it was really hard for me to accept if somebody didn't like me.
Yeah.
But now I like me.
Yeah, I like you, Seth.
Yeah.
I think that one of my friends that I think you might interview at another time says this. I'm going to kind of steal it from her. She can say it too. But the way I view sobriety now is like it's a superpower. It's like, everybody's going through hard things. Everybody has hard days, go through extended periods of time where things are very, very difficult. And the old me needed to drink to deal with it. Or even if I wanted to have fun, if I wanted to be more social, I needed a drink to be able to tap into that more carefree, social part of my personality. But now it's like, man, if I can deal with hard things and I can celebrate and I can do all these things without a chemical, it's like, man, that's like a superpower. It's like I've learned how to live consistent with who I want to be in situations without needing this substance to help me. I got it on my own. There's strength in that, and there's pride in that.
I literally said that same thing to somebody this morning on the phone regarding going on trips. The lack of self-control I had traveling. And now when I'm able to go on a trip and not drink, it's really empowering. It is a superpower. I agree. And I look forward to hearing that when they say it again. But I'm going to tell her when she says it that, I'm going to have to edit that out.
We trademarked that.
Yeah. Somebody's already said that. So we're going to have to cut that out. Come up with your own ideas, please. Come up with your own sayings. I do appreciate you. I've always enjoyed, I got to tell you this story though. I don't know if you remember this.
No.
It's probably one of the more embarrassing parts of my life. I think about it probably more than I should. But when we were in college, you had came to my apartment, and my new little girlfriend, Brittany, was there. And I think we had just started dating. So she's obviously my wife now, Brittany. But we were at my apartment, and you started playing guitar.
Okay.
And you were better than me.
Oh, wow. You must have been pretty bad.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if you were better. I don't know. Maybe you could sing. Something.
Oh.
But I was like, dude, this guy's, why are you showing up? And just start dating this girl. And you know what I did? My response, dude? I got up and went to my room and closed the door and just sat there. You don't remember that?
I don't remember this at all.
I don't know if Brittany remembers it either, but I think about it sometimes. It's like, well, how embarrassing. Like my response was like, all right, I'm not even going to listen to you. Like, it's so immature. But I went and sat in my room.
I don't remember that, but that has got to be like the highest compliment you can pay somebody is like, you're so good that I'm going to like pout about it.
I'm going to pout and you can have her.
Yeah.
Just take my girlfriend.
Like that's a level above like cheering is like you caused something to stir in me so deeply that I am going to remove myself from your concert.
I'm so insecure.
That's a great story, Seth. I love that story.
I don't know why.
I mean, I was worried it was going to be embarrassing about me, but I love that it was
on you. I don't think I've ever seen you do anything embarrassing.
Wow.
I know. Maybe we didn't hang out enough.
It might be.
You've always impressed me to the point where I was like, I can't even be friends with this guy. But yeah, that's a funny story, man. I think about it once in a while, and I never have told you about it. But my insecurities, little did we know outside of that, I think I'm happy for you. I'm glad you've got this thing, and congrats on over 8 years. Anything you want to put out there into the world or tell somebody that's maybe listening and thinking that this is just sobriety is just unachievable?
Yeah, it's doable. If I can do it, you can do it, because I had a lot of difficult things that were keeping me attached to alcohol. I had a lot of things that happened that I was able to stay sober. I'm really not that strong of person in the grand scheme of things. I mean, in terms of like self-control and all of that, I man, if I can do it, I think just about anybody can do it. It is worth it. Having respect for yourself, knowing that nobody's perfect, but trying to tell the truth both with yourself and with others. The pressure that comes off of you, it's well worth it. I love talking to people about it. I've got no judgment. I've got no shame for anybody that's going through it now. I'd love to talk to anybody about it.
Absolutely. Are you comfortable with me sharing your email or contact info or
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's it, because that's kind of the point. Everybody's got a different type of story. And if you can relate to anybody, if I don't have their contact info, reach out to me, because I think anyone that I speak to would be willing to talk to you. It's possible and it's worth it. Thank God for today.
That's right, Seth.
Thank you, Drew.
Yeah, appreciate you.
Appreciate you, buddy.